We have a major trade update around Lonzo Ball and Zach LaVine. We're going to be talking about the asking price around Lonzo Ball, and we're going to be talking about the most recent update around Zach LaVine and if either player is going to be traded this season. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and welcome back to another episode of Bulls Digest. And so today we are going to start off by talking about this recent news around Lonzo Ball. It looks like the Chicago Bulls might have a asking price there. Then we're going to be talking about something that I think is very interesting as Michael Porter Jr. comes out and talks about the possibility of maybe being moved here, which I think is going to really get the Chicago Bulls fan base really wondering what this team is going to do. And so let's go ahead and jump into this most recent news around Lonzo Ball. And so this actually came out just about a day ago. You can go out and check this out just about everywhere now, but it's NBA Central where I went ahead and took this tweet. And it looks like that Joe Cali of the Chicago Sun-Times came out and said that the Chicago Bulls are looking for an expiring contract and a few second-round picks in a potential trade package for Lonzo Ball. And then you can see just this quote under this that he says, look, a solid next few weeks from Lonzo Ball could start generating some interest, especially because he is working on an expiring contract. And all the Bulls would be looking for is swapping an expiring contract and grabbing at least two second rounders in the deal. And so let's start there. And so I think that if this is true, obviously this is Joe Cali reporting this. We don't know, if this is what the Chicago Bulls are saying or whatnot, what the sources are. But if this is true, then this just leads to the point that the Chicago Bulls are really, I think they're on the right track by asking for some draft compensation for Lonzo Ball. I think that by doing so, you're putting yourself in a position where if Lonzo Ball is not going to re-sign back with you, then you do have some draft capital. And personally, I think that with Lonzo Ball, the situation that he's been through in his career and just how hard he's worked to get back, I still think that there's a lot of potential for him. I could not see him necessarily signing with the Chicago Bulls again. I think at this point in time, Lonzo, he strikes me as the player that is going to want to go out there and maybe put himself into a win now situation if he's not moved on from. And so if you're in the Chicago Bulls front office, I think you're saying to yourself, okay, we're probably more than likely maybe not bringing him back because we already have some guards on this roster and that we want to probably move forward with. And so it makes a lot of sense to go out there and maximize this asset. And I think that between Lonzo and between Vooch, those are the two players that I think can be moved. And if the Bulls are really focused on it, there's a possibility that they should be moved this season. So we'll see what happens. And so I think a lot of people are probably going to look at this and say, man, can we maybe get a first round pick? And I would say this. If you're getting a second round pick, I think that a second round pick is just as valuable. And I know that we talk about the first round pick often, especially since this team looks like that it's moving away from its first round pick this upcoming draft. I think that if you get some second round compensation, that is equally as good. And it just means that the Chicago Bulls just really seriously need to have a plan because you can still really build out a good team with second round picks. For example, you look at Nikola Jokic, the Joker for Denver. He was a second round pick. Malcolm Brogdon, Zubac, who is the center for the Clippers. You got Norman Powell, Jeremy Grant, Jordan Clarkson, Io was a second round pick. You have Miles McBride, Vince Williams Jr., Trace Jackson Davis, Andrew Nembhard, Nick Claxton, Terrence Mann. You also have Jalen Brunson. Heck, we had Daniel Gafford, who was drafted in the second round. And so what I'm trying to say here is that, we should be really focused on just getting something back in draft capital. And so if that means a second round pick, you go with that and you just have the focus of saying, okay, we're getting these second round picks. We have got to make sure that we hit because I think the Bulls are doing a great job as far as, going ahead and getting some young talent that has been in the league and that's had some success on other teams. But I think to fully embrace this youth movement, to fully push forward, the Chicago Bulls are going to have to hit in the draft. And I know that, you can hit in the first round. You can also miss in the first round. You can hit in the second round and miss in the second round, but you still need to give yourself a chance. So going for second round picks, I think, is a smart thing. And so next up, I want to talk about now just the recent update around Zach LaVine. And I must say that you can look at this from two different viewpoints. One, you're going to see it as optimistic, the other probably pessimistic here. And so this is what is going on around a possible trade with Denver right now, at least from what we hear. And so this was Michael Porter Jr. He's talking to reporters. This happened on Monday, so after they beat the Suns. And so if you were looking at last night's game, they lost to the Phoenix Suns on Christmas Day. But he was saying that the front office reached out to him and they told him that it's nothing but just noise, and that they loved the way that he was playing and continue to keep playing hard. Obviously stay locked in. I'm paraphrasing there, but they had no desire to move him right now. And then he also said that, they would let him know, but in full context, he does joke and say, even if, they had the plans, they're not going to tell me. They would, essentially just act as they wanted to. And so everybody laughed in the press room because they're like, yeah, the franchise is not going to tell you that they're getting ready to trade you. And so, but full context, but he sounds pretty confident in the sense that, he believes in what the front office is telling him. He seemed to be pretty locked in. I was watching that game last night. He looked fine out there. And so, this really, if you're looking at it from two different points, I think from a Chicago Bulls fan, you're saying to yourself from a pessimistic standpoint, look, this means that this deal is probably going to maybe stall out now because we're hearing this from Michael Porter Jr. And then also, too, we've already heard the rumblings around Zeke and the Bulls not wanting to take that contract back, which suggests that the Chicago Bulls are more than likely going to probably have to hold on to Zach LaVine. Now, anything can happen. Another team could jump out there, but this is the most noise that we've heard around Zach LaVine in quite some time. And so the other half is you can look at this as an optimistic standpoint, and you can say to yourself that Zach LaVine is 29 years old. He's playing very good, actually at an all-star level right now. And it looks like that he's turning the page from a lot of narratives that were going on in the offseason, whether it was the injuries and, just him not being a good teammate and could he play off others, like all that. I think he's just he's put all that behind him and he's just debunking all those things, which is great. And I think that as you continue on with him, you can do that. And I think that it's clear now that as the Bulls go along this year, they're probably going to move away from that 2025 pick. That's fine. You just have to have a plan and you have to pivot. And I think that Zach LaVine still kind of fits that timeline for you. And there's a real possibility that he might be moved maybe this summer or going into next season, because now you're looking at a contract that it's lesser. You're also looking at the fact that I think that trade kicker is set to go down as well. So that's maybe another thing that could factor in. And so these are things that it could attract the team a little bit more, because right now, for a team to really go out and get Zach LaVine, I think that is a serious all-in move right there with the amount of money that is left on the contract plus the trade kicker. And so you had better be in a situation where you are right there to win a championship. And speaking of just all-in moves, I think that all three of the players, the main players that the Bulls want to move, are going to be all-in pieces. And I think that with Lonzo, with Vooch, and LaVine, it's all in, but I think that between Lonzo and Vooch, those are very movable pieces because of the contract situation. You get the expiring deal with Lonzo. You're going to get an expiring deal with Vooch, and the way he's playing at $20 million, like it could be a bargain for you at this point, for the next this season and then the rest of next season. And so those two players, I think, are the players the Bulls should more than likely really try to focus on. And I think that you have other plays that you can make here. You still can move Torrey Craig. You still can move Javon Carter, and it's okay to go out there and get some second round picks. I just talked about the fact that you can really hit in the second round. Look, Herb Jones, you had Xavier Tillman, Dylan Brooks, if I didn't mention, Nick Claxton. Like, these are players that were drafted in the second round, and you can very much build a winning team off of that. It's just that the Bulls really seriously need to take a look at this, make sure that they have a plan moving forward. And I've said this often, that no matter what this team is going to do, you had better have a plan. And so if you're going after first round picks, you better better have a plan for that. You're going after second round picks. You better have a plan for that. And so anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this recent information and trade updates around Lonzo Ball. Do you feel like Lonzo Ball will in fact be moved this year? Or do you feel like, he's not? What about Zach LaVine and this recent information around the Denver Nuggets? Do you feel like, this is probably a done deal? It's not happening this year. I'd love to know what you're thinking in the comments. Want to thank everybody out there for liking, sharing, and subscribing to the content. Means a lot to us here at Bulls Digest as we try to reach our subscriber goal of 5,000 subscribers by the end of the NBA season. Want to let you know about 66.3% of you that watch are not subscribed to the channel, so make sure that you go ahead and you slam dunk on that subscribe button for me. And I wanted to close with, look, I hope you are having a happy holidays out there. I hope you guys are safe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. And go Bulls. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.